To a collector, this is the Holy Grail, a mechanical masterpiece that survived the mud and the blood of the Great War. We prize these trench watches for their history, their grit, and their lume, that ghostly greenish glow on the numerals that allowed a soldier in a dark foxhole to check the time without signaling his position to a sniper. But that glow hides a secret that is as lethal as it is enduring. If you hold a Geiger counter to one of these early 20th century watches today, you won't hear a gentle hum. You will hear a frantic, rhythmic screaming. This watch is not just glowing, it is actively, violently disintegrating. This is the story of the Ghost Girls. They were the elite tech workers of the 1920s, teenagers and young women paid in gold to paint the future. They didn't know that every stroke of the brush was a death sentence, and they didn't know that the company they trusted was counting on their silence to protect a multi-million-dollar empire. Today, we are looking past the crystal and into the dark, radioactive heart of horological history. In 1898, a discovery was made in a small laboratory in Paris that seemed to promise a new age for humanity. Marie and Pierre Curie isolated a brand new element, radium. It looked like something out of a dream. It gave off a haunting greenish-white glow and even generated its own heat. Marie was so enchanted by it, she called it beautiful radium, but the public gave it a much more marketable name, liquid sunshine. At the time, radium was the most expensive substance in existence, worth roughly $2.2 million per gram in today's currency. Because it could kill a cancer cell, the world went radium mad, assuming it was a miracle health tonic. It sparked a consumer craze that makes today's energy drink market look tame. Entrepreneurs marketed radium-infused water called Radathor as a cure for fatigue and impotence, literally promising perpetual sunshine. There were radium cosmetics to energize the skin, radium toothpaste for a sparkling smile, and even radioactive bandages. People were essentially paying to slow poison themselves. In this atmosphere of wonder, the U.S. Radium Corporation opened its plant in Orange, New Jersey. It was a high-tech dream. While the world celebrated this miracle, the company's founder, Sabin von Sochatsky, mixed radium with a scintillator called zinc sulfide to create a paint that would glow forever without any power source. He called it Undark. For a working-class girl, getting a job at the USRC was like winning the lottery. While most women earned $5 a week in mills, these artists could earn 3 times that. They were young, vibrant, and independent, the influencers of the Jazz Age. When America entered World War I in 1917, the military had a massive problem. Soldiers in the dark trenches couldn't see their pocket watches without turning on a lamp and giving away their position. The solution was the trench watch with Undark dials. To meet the demand, factories recruited teenage immigrants with nimble hands for high-precision work. The work was painstaking. To paint a number only 1 millimeter wide, the brush had to be perfectly sharp. To maintain this precision, the supervisors taught the girls a specific technique, lip dip paint. They would put the brush between their lips to sharpen the tip to a fine point, dip it into the radioactive paint, and then apply it to the dial. When they asked, "Is this safe?" the managers just laughed. They told the girls the radium would put roses in their cheeks. Some managers even ate the paint in front of them to prove it was harmless. The girls became known as the Ghost Girls. They went home shimmering, wearing their best dresses to the plant so they'd glow in the dance halls at night. They even painted their teeth with Undark for a glowing smile. They thought they were living the dream. But while the girls were swallowing radium, the male scientists in the back were wearing lead aprons and using ivory tongs. They knew. To understand why these women were essentially the walking dead, we have to look at the chemistry, the tech of the human body. There's a phenomenon called calcium mimicry. On the periodic table, radium sits directly below calcium. To your body, they look identical. When the girls licked those brushes, their bodies thought, "Great, more calcium," and sent it straight to their bones. It was a bone seeker. While 80% was excreted, the remaining 20% stayed for life. Once inside the bone matrix, the radium was locked in, and with a 1,600-year half-life, it never stops radiating. Imagine thousands of microscopic cannonballs, alpha particles, firing at your bone marrow from the inside, 24 hours a day. It literally honeycombs the skeleton. This led to radium jaw. It started as a dull ache, but soon the jawbone grew so fragile that the simple act of chewing could cause a fracture. Because the marrow was being destroyed, the body stopped making healthy blood, leading to a severe anemia that no medicine could cure. One girl, Molly Magia, watched in horror as her dentist lifted her entire jawbone out of her mouth by hand. It had simply crumbled. The tragedy began in earnest with Molly Magia. She died at age 24, her body rotting from the inside out. But the company didn't want a scandal. They corrupted her death certificate to list the cause as syphilis. They knew the shame of a sexually transmitted disease would keep the families quiet and prevent autopsies. Meanwhile, the company was hiding evidence. Residents near the New Jersey factory noticed fumes discoloring their laundry, the first sign of a massive environmental leak. When a Harvard professor, Dr. Cecil Drinker, proved the factory was a death trap, the company president, Arthur Roeder, actually rewrote his report. He changed toxic to perfectly safe and sent the forged version to the government. They were willing to let more girls die just to keep the Undark profits rolling in. But the girls were starting to talk. They realized their shining health was a lie, and one woman, Grace Fryer, was about to start a legal war. Grace Fryer spent 2 years looking for a lawyer. Her spine had collapsed, and she had to wear a steel brace just to stand up, but she didn't stop. Finally, she found Raymond Berry, and the New Jersey Five were born. The company used every trick to delay the trial, literally waiting for the girls to die so the case would disappear. But the media caught on, and the Radium Girls became front-page news. The fight moved to Ottawa, Illinois, where Catherine Donahue led the charge. By 1938, she was so sick she collapsed in court. She ended up giving her testimony from her bed at home, holding a jewelry box, but it didn't contain jewelry. It held the pieces of her own jawbone that had fallen out. Finally, in 1939, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the right for workers to sue for occupational diseases. It was the first time an employer was held responsible for a worker's health. It was a massive victory for labor rights, but it came too late for most of the Ghost Girls. Yet their impact didn't end with a settlement. Their tragic bodies became a scientific reservoir that would eventually save millions of lives. The impact of this case is unbelievable. During World War II, when scientists were building the atomic bomb, they were terrified of plutonium. Why? Because plutonium is a calcium mimicker, just like radium. Chemist Glenn Seaborg used the data from the Radium Girls to create the extreme precautions used in nuclear labs today, like lead-lined glove boxes and ventilation hoods. Without the lessons learned from the Ghost Girls, the Manhattan Project would have been a massacre. Today, the factory sites are Superfund areas. The EPA spent decades cleaning them up, a job that wasn't finished until 2006. If you own a vintage Lume watch from before 1960, do not open it. Do not lick the dial. Treat it with the reverence and the caution it demands. The Radium Girls were told that they were painting the future. In a way, they were. Every safety label we see at work was written in their blood. Their glow hasn't faded, and thanks to their courage, neither will their story.